Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the board meeting of June 22nd. I'd like to acknowledge and welcome the President of the Peel Regional Police Association, Mr. Adrian Woolley, and President of the Senior Officers Association, Graham Symington. We'll begin with the OPP, Gallant and OPP meeting. Welcome, Inspector Crothers. We'll now refer to the agenda. Roll call. All members are present. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest from anyone? Seeing none, can I have a mover, please? Frank Dale, and seconded by Amrick. All those in favor? And that's carried. Approval of the minutes, I'm sorry. Louise, would you mind, please? Thank you. And a seconder for that. Thank you, Linda. Item number 2, 2018 first quarter operational and statistics analysis. Inspector Crothers, would you like to speak to that report? On the item 2, the 2018 first quarter operational and statistical analysis.
On our report?
Mm-hmm. Would you like to speak to anything on that?
No, that's fine.
No? Any questions from members of the board? Could I have a mover? Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the report, Inspector. I notice your numbers have not changed except where it says sexual assault has gone up 350%, and that's just small numbers. However, the percentage is very high. So my question is, have you seen any increase around technology, like folks dating online and this is the outcome? Or have you seen intimate partner violence? Have you gathered any stats around why this increase has occurred?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As far as the technology part, as far as Gallant and OPP, the answer to that question is no. We did have 2 in 2017 and 9 in 2018, a difference of 7. I can say that a couple of those are historical sexual assaults. We certainly have that applying to some of our domestics also, and we're certainly working closely with our partners such as the Gallant and Dufferin Victim Services. So even though the percentage of the spike is 350%, there was a difference of 7, and that's what I can account for that difference. But as far as technology is concerned, none of those are relating to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions concerning the report? Could I get a mover then? Norma, would you mind moving? Could I get a seconder, please? Frank, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll now move into the Peel Police Services Board meeting of June 22nd. I'll take roll call. All members are present. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes for April 30th, 2018. Could I get someone to move those, please? Amrick, seconder, Louise. All those in favor? And that's carried. We'll move down to the committee reports. The first one is item 2, which is the Finance Audit and Risk Report. Are there any questions for the committee chair? Seeing none, could I get a mover? Frank, seconder. Linda? All those in favor? That's carried. We'll now move into the consent agenda. In accordance with the board's procedures policy, we'll move into the consent motion for the consent agenda. The consent agenda deals with items considered to be routine and non-controversial. Do any members of the board wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Linda?
Chair, if we could remove item 14, please.
Item 14 has been removed, and it'll go into other business.
11 and 12.
11 and 12 have also been removed. Anyone else? So could I get someone to move the consent agenda, removing item 11, 12, and 14? Jack, and seconder Linda. All those in favor? And that's carried. We'll now move into board member questions or announcements. Does anyone have any item or announcement that they would like to make? I would like to make one, and that is that I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Chief Evans on being awarded the 2018 President's Award of Merit by the Ontario Associations of Chiefs of Police earlier this month. Chief Evans was presented with the organization's highest honor for her commitment to her community, police service, and policing in Ontario and Canada. Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that.
Any comments or questions from members of the board? None? Thank you. We'll now move into deputations. We have one additional deputation on the agenda today from some of our members of Parliament. We will be adding their delegation at the end of the currently scheduled delegations. A reminder that deputations are 5 minutes in length. I will alert you when there is about a minute to go. At the end of the delegation, I will ask board members if they have any questions or comments. Our first deputation today is Mr. Manny Souza. If you'd like to come forward, Manny. Good morning, Mr. Souza.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board and all the honored guests. I don't know if you can hear me, but I know you have a busy agenda today, so I'll talk about something that is important. It happens every day, and I'm going to start off with a brief video that is going to last a minute. If I can get this going here. Now, this happens every single day. In Peel Region, there's about approximately 1,500 school buses transporting 75,000 kids back and forth from from home to school. It's a stop sign on a school bus, as everybody can see. And what do you usually do when you get to a stop sign? You're supposed to stop. Unfortunately, this happens on a regular basis. All across not only Peel Region, but Ontario and Canada. It is something that is part of the Highway Traffic Act, that there's a law that prevents you from stopping, or prevents you from going past the school bus. There's children that go back and forth, across streets, sometimes major arterial roads and stuff. So it does happen on a regular basis. There has been a change and an update, an amendment to the Highway Traffic Act to allow video or cameras to stop people from doing this. This is to create a deterrent. So I'm going to talk about Peel Region and the pilot project that we did. Like any safety initiatives, there's always looking for data. We did a pilot project in Ontario in 5 jurisdictions, of which Mississauga was one of them. And unfortunately, Mississauga had most violations per bus per day. They were averaging 2.5 violations per bus per day. It is a pretty conservative number because sometimes people see a lot more than that happening. But it is something that is happening across Ontario. But in Peel Region, because of the urban texture of the of Peel, as well as rural roads, there's a lot of children that are transported on school buses. In December 2017, Bill 174, the Cannabis Smoke-Free Ontario Road Safety Statute Law Amendment Act, I know it's a mouthful, was passed. And part of it, and if you go to the end, it talks about school bus camera systems. What we're looking at doing, and I'm talking about the issue, and I'm not talking about a company I'm representing, but what we're talking about is allowing school buses to, as part of evidence, to use camera or video footage in the court of law. We have been working with City of Mississauga fairly closely. They're very interested in this, but right now we're still waiting for regulations from the Ministry of Transportation. This is the ask. How Peel Police Services can help? As I've mentioned, we are waiting for regulations to be written, but they're waiting for municipalities to also contact them in terms of interest. Just like automated speed enforcement, red light cameras, the initiatives were done by municipalities. We would love for Peel Police Services to also contact MTO to say this is something that is happening in our jurisdiction, and we'd love to be part of the consultative process to look at using technology to create a deterrent for vehicles that pass school buses. So that is an ask. We would also love Peel Police to also work with the City of Mississauga that has expressed interest in a processing center, and to allow school buses in Peel Region to use stop arm technology, camera technology. Okay, I'm pretty well done after this. Advocate the advantage of stop arm camera technology to all municipalities in Peel Region, so not just Mississauga, but Brampton and Caledon, and the importance of children's safety while riding school buses, and then finally encouraging the use of cloud-based technology to process infractions. Yeah, see, I told you it was done. But it is something that is happens every day. We don't really hear about it. We see it, but we don't act upon it because of the fact that, thankfully, we haven't had any fatalities or serious injuries. But it's not to say that there hasn't been fatalities or injuries in Ontario as well as across Canada. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Souza. Could I get someone to receive the deputation, please? Norma. Seconder? Frank? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you very much.
Our second deputation today is Ms. Nicole Cedron and Faisal Khan of Neighborhood Watch Brampton. Welcome to both of you, and you have 5 minutes for your presentation. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Faisal Khan, and I'm here with Nicole Cedron. We are volunteers who help run the citywide Neighborhood Watch program in Brampton. We're here to follow up from our delegation last year when we were just getting started. We've done a lot of work in the past year, and I'd like to highlight some of our work this past November. We produced a series of 7 short social videos with Peel Police for Crime Prevention Week that made a positive impact across the province. We excluded our own branding in the videos and even featured Safe City Mississauga's Neighborhood Watch program instead of Brampton's program. We've realized that as a new program, we must work extra hard to build relationships with our partners. But I'll quickly recap where we are now. Neighborhood Watch Brampton provides education, tools, and networking for our diverse populations so that our neighborhoods can be safer and more vibrant. The program is currently run and funded by Brampton-focused Community Media, a nonprofit group that is 3 years old. We specialize in community and audience engagement. Recently, we've been seeing a lot of online discussion and incidents caught on video about escalating violent crime in Brampton. We try our best not to sensationalize these incidents. However, what bleeds leads, as they say in the newspaper business, and many media groups, many in Toronto, focus only on the negative criminal aspects of our city. We strongly believe that a fully deployed Neighborhood Watch program would ensure that residents could put these incidents into context. Rather than have our community leaders react, we could all be more proactive and focus on the root causes of crime. I'd quickly like to show you some of our short and long-term plans. This summer, we're focusing on a community-based newspaper. We're developing a new video series that will be delivered in multiple languages. And we're also launching Operation Summer Thunder. That's our summer student initiative. We've received full funding for 15 students from the federal government. We have a couple of our students here today, if you guys can raise your hands. We're also working on a Neighborhood Watch app that will be available in prototype form later this year, testing next year, and ready for deployment in 2020. And in 2020, we hope to have a very unique marketing option to really engage with residents around our city. We now have over 1,500 households registered in our program across the city. Our goal is to support 5,000 households, or about 15,000 residents, by the end of the summer. The Snellgrove area in the northern section of Brampton is the most developed, primarily due to the efforts of Nikki Cedroni, who I'm very pleased to introduce. Nikki?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you to Fazal for everything, and I'd like to thank Mayor Jeffrey and Superintendent Dale Mumby for working with me over the past 2 months. I was one of the first residents to register for Neighborhood Watch Brampton last year, and I loved the work that was being done so much that I joined the team. My husband is an ex-police officer, and I appreciate the efforts to encourage cooperation between the public and police. It makes everything work better. We are currently working closely with the crime prevention team at Peel Police. We participate enthusiastically when called upon by our police partners and invite them and counselors to our neighborhood activation meetings. We also are thankful to receive weekly property crime data from the police that we use to update our neighborhoods. We are looking to establish an even closer working relationship with Peel Police, and we have some suggested ways of doing that listed so we can discuss. We are a bit out of the loop with Peel. Earlier this week, we noticed that Peel Police website was updated and the description, logo, and link of our program was removed, while Safe City Mississauga and Crime Stoppers carried over. As well, one recently missed opportunity was our disqualification from a 2-year provincial crime prevention grant program due to the length of the time it took to receive a letter of support through the formal police process. That was our fault. We didn't realize that the process was as comprehensive as it was. More recently, Public Safety Canada has an open call for applications to address youth crime intervention that is worth up to $7.5 million over the next 5 years per project. Streetsville MP Goggins Sicken introduced the Prime Minister in the House of Commons to announce the program, so we are hopeful that Peel Police is considering applying for a project.
1 minute left.
If not, we have a few ideas in mind. However, there is only 1 month left to apply. Our hope today is that the board will provide guidance in how to establish a closer working relationship with Peel Police so that we can maximize our volunteer efforts and so that Peel Police can have a vibrant, resident-based crime prevention and education partner in Brampton. I look forward to your suggestions on how to establish a closer working relationship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Perfect timing. Perfect. Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any comments? I'm certain that Mayor Jeffrey has one.
Sure do. Just wanted to say thank you to Fazal and to Nikki. Thank you for coming today. I guess what I encourage them to come here today to do is to kind of formalize the relationship with Peel Regional Police through an MOU, and I think that I'm not sure if we've started the process, but I'm asking that we formalize the process. The City of Brampton, when I arrived as mayor, was in the process of dismantling the Safe City organization. I think it's been long enough, and that this group has been working in the trenches and has been professional and thoughtful in the way that they have approached safety, working in collaboration with Peel Regional Police. So I'd like to find a way for them to formalize this MOU with Peel Regional Police. So I'm asking Chief if you can delegate somebody on your staff to formalize that so that they are in a position to apply for funds with Peel Regional Police or with other partners in Peel to ensure that they continue to grow what is a base that I think we want. We want an engaged, informed, not reactive group of people, but residents that see their role as partners in crime prevention. So I'm hoping that, Chief, you can help us with that.
Chief?
Absolutely. And I apologize to Grant. The application didn't seem to work. I don't think currently we don't have an MOU with Mississauga Safe City, so we don't have a formal, but we have an excellent working relationship. I've already sent an email, and it's already being asked about why your logo was removed from our website. We're working to get that back on. So that's already been assigned, so how quick I am to respond to that. So I am all about partnerships. I think everyone in the room knows that, and to say I would be more than willing to sit down. I'm judging from the pictures and the conversations I know you have with Dale. You have a great working relationship with our crime prevention team because you're getting stats already. So you're actually getting all the information right now that we have the same relationship. Right now, we have no formal in-writing MOUs with any partnering agency, so that's something we can discuss. But I would look forward to working with you, and I say I applaud you for the work you're doing because we as the police cannot do it all. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Chief. I appreciate the quick response. The only reason I do that is because it appears to be a hurdle for my council to work with this group from a signage perspective. So that's the only reason we're going this formal route, because my council has actually said no to putting up signage, whether it's a neighborhood watch organization or not. So I don't know what the barrier is, but Peel Regional Police will help legitimize and support the work that these volunteers have been doing with your approval. So I think that's the only reason it was more to legitimize them for my council and perhaps with organizations that require that relationship before funding is distributed. So have I caught everything, Fazal, or have I missed anything?
That was perfect.
Okay. Good.
I'll take that as a takeaway. I mean, I've signed letters of support for grant applications for numerous community groups without any formal MOU. So, and Peel Regional Police partner with a lot of community groups without any formal written documentation. But I will take that away. So I'm surprised by your city council because I know Mississauga doesn't occur in Mississauga. So,
Oh, yeah.
I will take that as a takeaway and get back to the board on that. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Linda, will you move the deputation? Could I get a seconder, please? Frank, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much for coming out today.
Thank you.
Thanks. Our third deputation today is Ursula Cooper-Bennett. Ursula, would you like to come forward?
No, that's okay. It's a video.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. 5.5 isn't. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Angela.
In my November 2017 deputation, I advised you that your secret Peel Police Street Check Board report revealed, quote, there is a retention schedule for street checks, and as in the occurrences section, the retention period is no charges event plus 1 year, charges event plus 5 years, V-class event plus 50 years. Niche is not subject to the retention schedule as a module is not built into the system to manage retention of records, unquote. And then, so you all did your best to keep hidden from the public that Peel Police street check forms and their related personal information were not supposed to be retained indefinitely as Evans and Berkeley Brown claimed, but had a precise destruction schedule. No board member commented or responded in any way, no surprise there, so I filed complaints with the Ontario Civilian Police Commission, OCPC. And oh my, I had a stack of freedom of information. I had Peel Police codes of conduct, policies from the board's website, board memos, and in-camera reports going back to 2007. I also had June 12, 2015 video of Mayor Crombie's resolution directing that Peel Police consult
best practices regarding the retention of information on
citizens, unquote. I had video of Chief Evans informing the board that she'd have 98,469 street check records permanently restricted by January 2017.
So far, we have restricted over 24,000 documents, and we still have 74,469 street check records to restrict.
I handed the Ontario Civilian Police Commission what looked like a slam dunk complaint. Deliberate refusal by Peel Police to comply with its own street check information destruction schedule. Now, given the board's time constraints on deputations, I can only share the most important loopholes in the OCPC's March 2018 decision letters. For the record, these loopholes are also what Peel Police and board kept secret from us naive souls attending their 2015-2016 Brampton, Mississauga street check public consultations. The OCPC wrote, more importantly, the PRP records retention schedule was not mandated by legislation or regulation. Therefore, its enactment, structure, application, and interpretation lies squarely with PRP and the Peel Police Services Board. It did not contain mandatory requirements, but rather guidance on PRP's operations, unquote. On March 13, 2018, the OCPC added, quote, more importantly, both the retention schedule and bylaw allow the preservation of records past their retention periods on a discretionary basis, unquote. That's right, the Peel Police refusal to comply with their own street check information shred erase schedule and bylaw is discretionary. The OCPC continued, quote, as previously stated in the Commission's response dated March 7, 2018, the application and interpretation of the Peel Regional Police retention schedule lies with the Peel Regional Police and the Peel Police Services Board, unquote. That's legalese, meaning that Peel Police, whose core values are trust is the foundation in all we do and transparency at all times, are free to violate any policy, procedure, directive, or code provided that it's not mandated by legislation or regulation. And that means, by extension, that this loophole applies to all Ontario police forces and boards, and I suspect all Ontario government agencies. That policies, procedures, directives, and codes that are not mandated by legislation or regulation are discretionary. As for my complaint that Peel Police and the board failed to comply with their anti-racism and ethnocultural policy, the OCPC ruled, quote, finally, you allege that Peel Police leadership and the Peel Police Services Board failed to ensure compliance with the Peel Police Services Board's anti-racism and ethnocultural equity policy and management of public records policy. Failure to ensure compliance with board policies by itself is not misconduct under the Code of Conduct or a breach of the members' Code of Conduct, unquote. So, writing police records management and anti-racism policies is mandated by legislation or regulation, but refusal to comply to those policies, thus affecting tens of thousands of people's street check personal information, of which about 30% are black, and keeping that non-compliance secret is not misconduct, but rather discretionary. So whose personal information is mandated by legislation in the Police Services Act to be expunged? Why, the police themselves, of course. In 4 sections of the Police Services Act, misconduct or unsatisfactory work performance by police officers, deputy chiefs, and chiefs, quote, shall be expunged from the record 2 years after being made, unquote. Police expunge rights are fully protected by the Police Services Act legislation. Yet the 11 or 12-year-olds street checked by Peel Police who should have had their personal information expunged as per the Peel Police records retention schedule are now part of the permanent street check legacy data that Chief Evans and this board's discretionary proclivities will now keep on them forever.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Are there any questions concerning the presentation? Could I get a mover, please? Thank you. Seconder? Louise? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Our next deputation today is Ms. Elizabeth Gallant and Anda Blackwell. Thank you very much, and you have 5 minutes for your deputation this morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Gallant. I am Bill Harrison's sister, sister-in-law to his wife Bridget, and aunt to their son Caleb Harrison. Anna Blackwell, Bill and Bridget's niece, is here with me today. The Harrison family lived at 3635 Pitch Pine Crescent in Mississauga. You are likely aware that in that family home, my brother Bill was found dead in a locked bathroom in 2009. My sister-in-law Bridget was found dead at the bottom of the stairs in 2010. My nephew Caleb Harrison was found murdered in his bed in 2013. Caleb's death led to the reopening of Bill and Bridget's death investigations. It became clear that all 3 deaths were homicides. You are likely aware that on January 13th, 2018, at the Brampton Courthouse, Melissa Merritt, Caleb's ex-spouse, and her partner, Christopher Fattori, were found guilty of first-degree murder of Caleb. Christopher Fattori was found guilty of second-degree murder of Bridget. The jury was undecided about Melissa Merritt's involvement in Bridget's murder. Christopher Fattori, who was charged alone in the murder of my brother, was found not guilty of Bill's murder. The Peel Police and the coroner's offices have acknowledged to us that mistakes and missteps occurred during their death investigations of Bill and Bridget. We learned that neither Bill nor Bridget's death were thoroughly investigated and limited evidence was collected. We now want to know what happened, what went wrong. Why did these death investigations fail our family? Could these deaths have been prevented? What needs to be fixed so no other family has to endure what we've been through? We are mindful that on March 28, 2018, Chief Jennifer Evans reinstated an internal administrative review of these investigations that she had initiated in February 2018 and then suspended. She tasked Inspector Joseph Paolini of the Peel Police with leading this internal review. The fact that this review is being conducted internally without any third-party oversight concerns us deeply. This review will not have the authority, scope, or credibility, or address the operational and contextual issues and facts at the core of these investigations. We are also concerned about the lack of transparency and family engagement in the review process to date. Since February 2018, we have repeatedly stated that we were open to meeting with Chief Evans. We have repeatedly asked for input into the terms of reference, information about the methodology, and information about the resources that would be allocated to it. We asked for meaningful family participation and to review findings. We have been told we will not have access to the report or its recommendations, nor will the results be made public. On June 13, 2018, Mr. Serp, your executive director, reached out to me to suggest that instead of making today's deputations, I meet with him, Chief Evans, and her legal counsel in July. In addition, on June 15, 2018, Inspector Paolini advised us by email that he is actively reviewing the investigation and that we would have an opportunity to share additional information that may be useful in the review. While we were open to meeting, we are concerned that these meetings may be tokenistic and will fall short of being an open and transparent exchange. The Peel Police say its values are formed out of trust, yet we ask, why should we, in fact anyone, including the board, put its faith in an in-house review conducted by fellow police officers when the Peel Police failed us so badly? Why is Peel Police not sharing access to information about the methodology and resources for this review and substantively engaging with us? How is refusing our access to the findings, report, and recommendations and management response in the community to its best interest? We cannot accept that such a secretive review process will ensure accountability or ensure that such a tragedy does not happen to any other family. On behalf of the extended Harrison families, I ask the PSB for three things. One, champion our request for an overarching, independent, publicly transparent, and rigorous examination of the Harrison death investigations apart from Chief Evans' internal administrative review. This overarching examination must be conducted by a third party and cover all aspects of the death investigations and include meaningful family engagement. Number two, direct Chief Evans to immediately disclose details of the methodology and the human and financial resources for the internal administrative review. Further, that Chief Evans instruct Inspector Paolini to provide us with a substantive progress update and plan for family consultation and engagement. Three, direct Chief Evans to make the internal administrative review report and its recommendations public. The Peel Police's management, response, and corrective actions taken must also be brought to public account. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments that you'd like to? No? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation, and certainly on behalf of the board, I would like to offer our sincere condolences to you and your family on your losses. May I have somebody receive the deputation, please? Jack? Oh, Chief, I'm sorry. I didn't
Chair.
see over there.
Ms. Gallant, I'm Jennifer Evans. Obviously, you probably know me. So I apologize very much. I'm very sorry for your loss. I have not ever intended to be not transparent on this. I mean, I've copied you or family members on an email, so I've assigned Inspector Paolini, who I think will do an excellent job of doing this review. Right now, he's working with Sergeant Mike McKenzie, and I understand he has met with the family once and is asked to meet with them again. He has been doing a review and has just recently started doing interviews of police personnel with regards to this. It is my intention, when the report is done, is to meet with the family and then to make this report and all the recommendations and to admit to if there are errors been made, we will make it very public. The report will be public, and I will present the report to the public at that time. So I have not been, I would not want you to think that I have been avoiding dealing with this. I've been very much paying very close attention. This investigation has caused me great concern, and I know the impact this has had on your family. I apologize for any more stress this has caused to your family. When I initially assigned this in February, the delay, and, you know, there was a bit of a suspension for a period of time because I was concerned. I'm aware there's an appeal period, appeal being filed on this investigation on the homicide convictions. So I did not want the review that we are conducting to interfere with that. I was assured by David Mailer, the Crown Attorney, this would not occur, so I reinstated Inspector Paolini to do this. So I am more than willing, as I spoke to Mr. Serpe, that I would be more than willing to meet with the family to talk about concerns, and I know that Inspector Paolini has also reached out as well. So,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Could I get someone to move the deputation? Amric, and seconder, Linda. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you again for coming out today.
Thank you.
Our final deputation today is for members of Parliament. I understand that there's only a couple here today that will be proceeding. Ruby Sagota, Raz Grewal, Kamal Kara, Ramesh Sagda, and Sonia Sadhu. So if you'd move forward, thank you. And maybe you could introduce which ones you are, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kamal Kara, Member of Parliament for the riding of Brampton West, along with my colleagues Ruby Sahota, Member of Parliament from Brampton North, and Sonia Sadhu, Member of Parliament from Brampton South. First and foremost, we would like to thank the board for allowing us to be here today on such short notice. We really do appreciate it. We are here today in our capacity as both elected representative of the people of Brampton, but as well as the residents of Brampton. I would like to start off by addressing the issue, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues to continue the conversation. Madam Chair, our number one priority as elected representative is the safety of all our residents. We know that several incidents of youth fighting in Shoppers World Plaza and Sheridan College area has recently been reported. Videos of these brawls are widely circulated on social media, and many community members are concerned about the escalating violence. This is becoming a pressing and serious safety issue as the occurrence of violent brawls continues to rise. Our offices, between the 5 offices, we have received more than hundreds of calls and emails as the community is beginning to feel that nothing is being done to ensure that they're safe and secure. This is not the Brampton that we know, and we know how hard the Peel Regional Police works to keep us all safe. And we would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the frontline police officers for their ongoing work. This is why we feel that we must work together at all levels to respond to this issue and reassure all the Brampton residents that we will join forces to prevent any future violence. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague to talk a little bit about how the Peel Police Services can help address this issue. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Sonia Sidhu. Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Sonia Sidhu, a Member of Parliament from Brampton South. And we are all here, every Bramptonian is not feeling safe, and how we can fix immediately these concerns. Is there any liaison officers? Because South Asian community, majority of South Asian communities lives in Brampton. Is there any liaison officers we can put in the community so they can understand the need of the community? And we can put some more force so we can address this immediate concerns of the Bramptonians. That's what we are here. I appreciate what police force is doing. Let's work together to address these concerns.
I'd like to add to that by stating that, I mean, although we appreciate the work that is being done, there are many people that feel that more can be done, especially in a targeted area. Most of the incidents that we're hearing about are happening in the area near Sheridan College and Shoppers World, and they're spreading to some other locations. But I think first and foremost, in order to tackle the problem, we understand that violence occurring amongst youth is a complex problem, and there's many layers involved to that problem, and we're going to work with every level in order to ensure long-term solutions. But in the immediate, we would request that there be patrolling 24/7 of this area, and that we also be provided with some statistics as to what the police has done, what the backgrounds of these people are, where they reside, so that we can put together a long-term strategy to come up with some solutions that will be not for just the immediate, but for in the foreseeable future. I think in order for Bramptonians to feel safe in their community, they're going to need to see more officers, at least in that area for the time being, so that we can quash some of the violence that's happening, some of the fights that are starting, so that people will feel that there is law and order, there is stiff rules and penalties that those would face when they break the law. And so that is our request, our humble request to all of you, that in the immediate we put some force out there, and then we'd sit down together. We've written to you, Chief Evans, as well, so that we can come up with some solutions for the long term. We've written to the mayor, we've written to Sheridan College officials, and obviously our provincial counterparts as well. So together that we can come up with some solutions here. So we'd love to hear from you guys how we can get to that.
Thank you. I'm sure, Chief, you'd like to respond?
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I've received your letter late last night, and I've notified both commanders. So in the audience today, you have the Commander Superintendent Steve Blom from 22 Division, who's responsible for Sheridan College, and then you have Superintendent Brad Rose, who's responsible for 21 Division, which is this side of Brampton. Both commanders are very much aware of the increasing issues. Arrests were made with regard to the incident you're referring to in Sheridan College, and myself and the mayor and the president of Sheridan College and Superintendent Blom, we've had multiple conversations with regard to it. I too am concerned with it, so I welcome the opportunity to work with you. That would be fabulous. I'm not sure if the people in the community are asking you as well. My concern, I mean, while I have your captured attention right here, is with regard to the sentencing, is the fact that frustration from the officers sometimes is that we lay criminal charges and they go to the courts, and often the sentence doesn't always meet the crime. So, maybe we need to, as members of federal parliament, maybe we need to start looking at mandatory minimum sentences for people who commit assaults or violent crimes with a weapon. This may be something that, I would ask that you would take back and maybe look into, because I've had conversations with Mr. David Miller, the Attorney General, or the Crown Attorney in Peel. I know the justice modernization piece is trying to return accused people back into the society. But my concern is that if we will continue to see an increase in violent crime, if there's no repercussions for these actions. So I know our police officers are working extremely hard, and I know I've asked both superintendents to be here today to hear your concerns and to say that way we can put a face to a name, and that way we can meet and have further conversations about this.
Can I respond to that? Sure. I welcome that feedback, and we can look into that. We are a government that appreciates law and safety, as I'm sure any government that's elected in Canada does. When it comes to mandatory minimums, we will do what's right when what the science shows us actually works. But that is no reason not to lay charges and to apprehend people that are causing violence in our communities. So I think that's what needs to be done first and foremost, and we'll definitely work with you on what we can do to make sure that you have the tools that you need in order to do that. But I think we do need immediate action in these particular areas to make sure that people feel first safe, and that those that are thinking about getting into future altercations know not to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. Linda, do you have any comments? I'm sure you do.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank these three MPs for coming. I know all five would be here if they could be. They all feel very strongly about this issue, and I appreciate how quickly that they have pulled their schedules together to be here. It demonstrates to me how important they see this issue, and I share your concern. When I got elected back in 2014, I would say in the first few months, people started talking to me about community safety, and it was anecdotal until we did a community survey back in September of 2017, and I would say consistently people said it was the top issue for our residents. So I think that certainly the public at the time, and I think even today, feel that gun violence, home robberies are increasing, and they're concerned that there aren't enough frontline officers, and I think we all hear that certainly around the board. And back in 2017 in November, when we were working on our budget, I brought that issue to the table, so we had that conversation as a board to say, was there enough money in the budget to demonstrate that we could provide the equipment in the form of officers out on the street? And we had a very vigorous debate, I think, at the time. We were trying to live within a budget that had been constrained by Peel region, but it was clear in a fast-growing community that we didn't have the resources. So I think we all felt those crime statistics were forcing our hand to the point where we had to do something very, very specific. So I asked the chief to revisit and rework the budget proposal, and we actually proposed a budget beyond the 3.2 to 4.3. And this board, and then we were able, and certainly the chief made a very compelling presentation at the region to demonstrate that we need more officers. So we put 37 more officers on the streets, and we put 10 more dispatchers, call officers on the street as well. But I think we all feel that things are still escalating, and I appreciate that you're here to sound that alarm. I share your concerns, and I think that there are other groups that are putting events together to talk about this issue, and I appreciate that you're trying to find a practical solution, and the correspondence that you shared with me last night, I will certainly share with my council about what we can do with regards to the housing in and around Sheridan College in particular, and certainly I can commit to you that I will continue to work with Peel Regional Police and Sheridan College. We have a group called the Town and Gown, and we have met to talk about what we can do collectively, because it isn't one person's problem. We all own this issue. So I am prepared to work with you. I think this is a very serious issue, and I am very concerned about the young people and their safety in our community. And I would ask the chief, I learned this morning, actually while we were sitting here, that there's going to be a town hall on Sunday being hosted by the Ontario Gurdwara Committee and the United Six at Jim Archdeacon on Sunday afternoon. Could I ask that somebody from Peel Regional Police perhaps attend? It's from 3 to 6. I think that we need people who understand the situation well and perhaps the Commander Blum could, or your designate could attend to provide some comfort and some advice to what next steps we're going to work on together to demonstrate that we hear, we're empathetic, and that we want to resolve these issues on a timely basis, and we want the public to reach out to Peel Regional Police and tell them what they know, not necessarily videoing it and sending around the world, and essentially escalating the situation. I think that we need people to be thoughtful in the way that they proceed. People are scared, and when they're scared, sometimes they don't react the best way. So this is about making our city safer, and I think that these three MPs said it very well at the beginning. This is about public safety, and I appreciate them being here today. Thank you.
Chief?
Thank you. Yes, I became aware of that this morning as well, so we'll have officers attend that meeting as well. And I echo the mayor's comments, is the concern we're having with Peel Police is people are videotaping and recording and putting it on YouTube instead of calling the police, which is really what we need people to do, because that way we can respond and we can make arrests while people are still there. And then we can seize the video evidence to be used in court. But that would be my message as well. So, and I meet all of you at a lot of community events. I look forward to having further conversations on this important very topic. So thank you.
Thank you, Amrick.
Thank you. I share the comments made by the Chief and Mayor Jeffrey. And I do appreciate you coming down and taking the time to again highlight the issues that I think we read in the papers and so on and so forth. The one point I would make is, and I would like to have the Chief comment on it, is repeatedly one of the biggest tools we have to apprehend people is public cooperation and information. For sure. Because police cannot be everywhere. I know three of you and your colleagues have excellent rapport with your constituents. You're in touch with them. I want to hear from the Chief how that can be leveraged to increase the information and involvement, because there are 20 people, I think you said that this morning in an unrelated instance, 20 people there, but nobody saw anything. So is there something in that area that we can use these Member of Parliament's help in educating that they are part and parcel of the solution?
Aaron, to say, I think if any town halls or any meetings, then we would encourage you to have conversations, and we have a liaison, community liaison officers assigned to each division, and they do so much outreach, and they know all the business partners and community partners, and they would be more than welcome to go out and be the liaison and help you have this conversation and talk about the issues. So, absolutely.
Linda?
So just so I've already asked the Chief to do this, but I think I'd like her to get out more into the ethnic radio stations to perhaps have these conversations, and she's agreed this morning that she will find ways to do that, because I understand that that's a frequent way that information is, or misinformation is conveyed across the community. So the Chief has agreed that she will participate. So your advice on where her services would be best utilized, I think, is something that she's already agreed to do this morning. And so I think when there's a vacuum, people fill it with misinformation, and I think the Chief is the best person to be out there to correct the message. We do have officers that are out there working. There's a big city, it's growing very quickly, and we want to find ways to make our city as safe as possible. And
Madam Chair,
can I make a point?
Sorry?
I want to make a point.
Certainly.
Chief, can we run any community programs to do awareness? Because people are scared. We got numerous calls about public safety. In the meantime, for awareness, can we run community programs?
Absolutely, we can do that, yes, and we would partner with you doing that. So I have a youth advisory committee, and several Saturdays ago, myself and Deputy Andrews were meeting with this group, and they were talking, the students who were grades 10 to the second year university were talking about their concerns within the violence in the schools, and they were talking about how students were making their own weapons and bringing them to schools. So very much concerned me. So at any point you want to have those conversations in town halls, and we can educate the community on how they can be safe and how they can communicate and contact police, I would welcome that.
I think those are excellent steps to take to solve this problem down the road. Community engagement, the media, I think will be good. People being aware about where they can send that information that they know about would be a great step, but I really urge the police to look at putting a patrol car in a couple of these plazas 24/7, at least over the next little while, because I had just heard on the radio today that there was another fight in that same plaza last night. So these are occurring rapidly on almost a daily basis. So I think there's usually cars, I know, patrolling the area in certain areas, and I think that area needs to be patrolled right now for the immediate foreseeable future.
What's causing this sudden sudden surge of impromptu fights?
I think I'm not aware what the motivation is, and that's something that we need to get down to the bottom of, what the root cause is. But I think in order to deter it from happening in the foreseeable future, at least over the next several weeks, we need some patrolling, heavy patrolling in that area. And I'd be very appreciative of that. Thank you.
It seems very appropriate that Brampton Safe City is here today. Maybe you could work with them as well at your public outreach, and to make sure that they're invited to such events so that they can, you know, raise their profile and get people involved in being neighborhood watch people, because that's important, having eyes on the street. Are there any other comments or questions from members of the board? No? Could I get someone to move? Linda, and second, Jack. All those in favor? Thank you very much for coming out today. I appreciate it. We'll move to presentations. Our first presentation today is by Tony Serta, Purchasing Manager at the Region Peel. This presentation will reflect changes that will be discussed under other new business number 19 on the purchasing policy revisions.
Okay, good morning.
Welcome.
My name is Tony Setra, and I am the purchasing manager that supports the procurement needs of Peel Police, and I'm pleased to be here with Sarah Ramberter, purchasing advisor, and we're here to present to you some of the highlights of the proposed changes to the purchasing policy. The region, as a municipality, is required under the Municipal Act to have formal policies that govern the procurement of goods and services, and to review those policies regularly. The region's procurement bylaw is reviewed every 5 years, and the police purchasing policy mirrors that bylaw. It is with the focus of operational excellence and continuous improvement that we regularly review our procurement processes. Speaking of that, earlier this year, the Procurement Division received the Outstanding Agency Accreditation Achievement Award from the National Institute of Government Procurement for the 4th consecutive term, covering 12 years. Peel is one of only 2 public procurement agencies in Canada, and only one of 62 in all of North America that are currently accredited by the NIGP. This is a testament to the high standards that we place on ourselves, and is with the goal of continuing to strive for best practices that we have approached this policy review. This slide illustrates the 4 guiding principles of the purchasing policy. Our process must be open, meaning that all qualified bidders are entitled to participate. This results in the greatest possible level of participation and competition, and in turn, results in the best value for money. Our process must be fair, meaning that the competitions that we run are fair and that we treat all bidders fairly and equally. Our process must be transparent, meaning that our procurement information is clear and available to the public. Lastly, we must maintain integrity in our process. When we issue bidding opportunities, we must follow the process that we outline in our documents and in our policy. Maintaining integrity in our policy assures that the public will continue to have trust and confidence in Peel and its procurement processes. A failure to uphold these 4 principles can result in our process being challenged by bidders. This can lead to both legal and reputational risks and create a lack of confidence by the public and the vendor community. Therefore, it is paramount that our policy reflects these principles. As we carried out the policy review, the areas of focus became clear. We needed to bring the purchasing policy up to date with new changes in legislation, policy, and programs. We needed to modernize the policy to reflect current trends in public procurement and modern best practices. Lastly, we wanted to add clarity to the policy to improve the language and the readability while removing ambiguity. This slide illustrates the timeline of our review process, which began about a year ago. Last summer, we started by conducting an environmental scan of procurement practices focusing on other large municipalities, including Brampton and Caledon, Mississauga, and other police agencies, looking for areas where our policies aligned and where they differed. We consulted with internal program staff throughout Peel, including Peel Regional Police and Peel Housing Corporation. Using all of that information, we finalized the recommendations and drafted the revised policy. On April 19th, we presented the recommendations to the region's Audit and Risk Committee, who unanimously endorsed our revisions. On May 3rd, the revised purchasing policy was presented to and endorsed by the Chiefs Management Group. On May 10th, it was approved by Regional Council and subsequently adopted by the Peel Housing Corporation Board on June the 7th, which brings us to today, as we are seeking adoption of the revised purchasing policy by the Police Services Board, such that the revised policy can take effect on July the 1st. Some of the key policy changes include new trade agreements. Recently, CETA and 2 other significant trade agreements, namely CFTA and the OQTCA, were entered into by the federal and provincial governments. These trade agreements have implications on municipal procurement practices. For the most part, our practices already align with the trade treaties, but some fine-tuning was necessary in order to achieve full compliance. Examples include enhanced requirements around bid posting, minimum bid open periods, vendor debriefing, and the disclosure of evaluation criteria. On March 26, Peel went live with its new e-bidding platform. Vendors are now able to submit their bids online rather than deliver paper copies in person. We had to amend the purchasing policy to reflect this new and modernized way of doing business. Since our last review, Peel has adopted a number of strategic programs that are best enabled through our procurement practices, and we have incorporated these into the revised purchasing policy. The Vendor Performance Management Program is an enterprise-wide process for evaluating the performance of our vendors. The evaluations will be used to inform decisions on future contracts and can be used to suspend poor-performing vendors for bidding on Peel contracts for a period of time. The program is aimed at ensuring value for money in the award and performance of Peel contracts and is now addressed in the revised purchasing policy. The revised policy also includes the ability to promote sustainable procurement practices that have regard for the consideration of social, environmental, and economic factors. And both of these programs may be incorporated into future police procurements. The second category of changes are targeted at modernizing our practices and improving efficiencies. With this in mind, we reviewed the process of other Ontario municipalities and compared them with our own. We found that for the most part, our processes were very similar to other comparable agencies, with one notable exception, and that is how we go about awarding contracts arising from a competitive process. To lay the groundwork for this, I'll take a moment to explain the different types of competitive procurement processes. There are generally 2 types, which is a request for tender, which we call RFTs, and request for proposals, which we call RFPs. In a request for tender process, we specify all aspects of the contract in our bid document and ask bidders to simply submit a price to carry out the work based on those specifications. So an example would be a contract for the renovation at a police facility where bidders are to submit a price based on all the construction specifications and drawings that have been included in the bid document. The contract is awarded to the lowest compliant qualified bidder, and this is what we consider to be the best value bid in a tender process. A request for proposal process, on the other hand, is used where we are not able to specify all aspects of the project in advance, and bidders are asked to provide us with a proposal which includes not only price, but a technical proposal of how they proposed to carry out the assignment, including their experience, methodology, the members of the project team, timelines, and so on. An example of this would be a contract for soft body armor or a new technology application such as e-notes. The evaluation includes a review of both technical and price components of the bidder's proposal. Proposals are scored by an evaluation committee, and the contract is awarded to the highest ranking bidder. And this is what we consider to be the best value bid in an RFP process, the highest ranking bid resulting from the technical and financial evaluation. While they are slightly different, both are competitive procurement processes and both are very standard here at Peel. Under our current purchasing policy, staff have the authority to award all contracts that result from a tender process of all values. However, on the RFP process, staff only have the authority to award contracts that are valued up to $500,000. RFP awards over $500,000 are brought to the board for approval. While we carried out this policy review process, it was difficult to rationalize this distinction. And when we did our municipal scan, which you'll see on this slide, we found our current approach to be inconsistent with the award process of some of our municipal counterparts. The blue shading shows municipalities where staff award contracts of all values arising from a competitive procurement process, provided that the award is within budget and is being made to the best value bid. There is no difference based on whether the award arises from a tender proposal. If it arises from a competitive process, the award is made by staff. Two of our area municipalities follow this approach. Both Mississauga and Brampton are among those. And similarly, this is consistent with the municipalities who procure on behalf of their police services, namely Halton Region and the City of Ottawa. Based on our review, here's a summary of what we are proposing going forward as the approval authorities under the revised policy. The only change that is being proposed is with respect to RFPs above $500,000. We are proposing that these awards be made by the Deputy Chief rather than the Board, provided that the award is within budget and is being made to the best value bid. To put this into context, since 2014, the Board has approved a total of 7 contracts resulting from an RFP process ranging from $500,000 to $1.5 million. Now, where the award is not being recommended to the best value bid or where it is not within budget, it would then require Board approval. These are considered irregular results, which is shown at the bottom of the slide. This new approach will improve efficiencies and improve our RFP cycle time, allowing us to make our awards more quickly and get started on our projects faster. It also makes our award process for RFPs consistent with that of tenders, in that all of our competitive procurement awards follow the same process. I should note as well that awards of directly negotiated or sole source contracts above $250,000 will continue to be brought to the Board for approval, as shown towards the bottom of the slide. This is the case today, and we're not proposing any changes to that process. Our recommended approach is balanced by the fact that our bid documents contain provisions that dictate how awards will be determined. Given the laws that govern bidding and tendering, there is really very limited discretion to deviate from awarding a contract to the winning bidder. As a result, the award process essentially becomes an administrative function that it can be most efficiently be carried out by staff. We will continue to be transparent through our procurement activity reports to the Board, which we will continue to bring forward semi-annually, and provide the Board with information on all contract awards. We will also continue to post all award information on Peel's website to ensure that this information is fully available to the public. As part of our focus on modernization, it is important to ensure that our revised policy reflects current trends in public procurement. Something that is becoming more and more prevalent is the introduction of greater flexibility in competitive procurement processes. More and more in the public sector, we're seeing processes such as negotiated RFPs and best and final offer processes, or BAFOs. These are really just different types of RFP processes, and they allow us the ability to carry out limited and focused negotiations within the parameters of a competitive procurement process. For an example, in a BAFO process, bidders would submit their proposals for evaluation. Following evaluations, we would meet separately with the top scoring bidders to provide feedback as to how they could improve their proposal to better meet our needs. With that feedback, bidders would refine their original proposals, have the ability to resubmit on what is then deemed their best and final offer. This generally results in them coming back with a higher quality proposal for our consideration. We then reevaluate and score the submissions, and the award is made to the highest scoring bidder. Although we have not yet used a BAFO process for a Peel Police project, the region recently used a BAFO process successfully in 2 major affordable housing developments, one in Brampton, one in Mississauga. Now, a BAFO process would not be used every day. They are usually reserved for larger, more complex projects where the requirements are difficult to define. They involve a dedication of time and resources that are not warranted in all cases. However, used in the right circumstances, they can be very beneficial in bringing in higher quality proposals that better meet Peel's needs. They allow the ability to carry out a defined level of negotiation under that competitive tension that exists in a competitive procurement process, and can be very useful in models obtaining the best value for money. Again, these are not new to the region. This is simply a case where our policy needs to catch up with our processes. The last set of changes that we're proposing fall into the category of enhancing clarity in the policy. The language of the policy has been updated and clarified where necessary to address any ambiguities and to increase readability and interpretation. But in some cases, we've had to make changes to the policy to reflect changes in business practices. For example, in the case of e-bidding, we needed to redefine the meaning of a public bid opening. In an electronic bidding environment, as we no longer read out bid prices before a group of bidders following an in-person bid, a public opening now refers to a process whereby bids are opened electronically and available for all to see online. In other cases, we have removed certain parts of the policy and put them into procedures instead. This allows them to remain fluid and easily updated at all times, rather than necessitating a policy revision each time a change is required. The culminating effect of all this is to bring forward a revised purchasing policy that is modernized and reflective of up-to-date business practices and procurement trends, that incorporates process improvements and efficiencies, and that continues to reflect our 4 guiding principles of integrity, fairness, openness, and transparency. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Is there any questions from members of the board concerning this? No? I'd like to move up item number 19 then under new business for approval. Can I have a mover, please? Frank, seconder, Amrick. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We've been asked to pull out number 11 under other new business, and that was moved by Amrick. Yes. Amrick, you wanted to speak to that?
Yes, sure. Thank you. I just have some clarification questions. I see that the program for the tasers is proceeding as planned, so that you will see probably a different statistics on use of force. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Chief, is de-escalation. You talk about it here, and I know that you have started conversation with some education institutions. Can you give us, and also one of the things you've done is change the program from a 1-day to a 3-day incident response, again, with emphasis on de-escalation, which I think is a wonderful thought to, rather than use of force, is to de-escalate it. So what is the assessment so far of this program, and where are you headed with that collaboration you had with U of T regarding de-escalation techniques?
Chief, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I actually, Chair, I have Superintendent Graham Simonton here, who's Area Command, that is, and I think he's got Staff Sergeant Scott Murray to come down, and they can speak to that. So, Scott and Graham, I think the Chair is referring to the work for the IPREP program by Dr. Judith Anderson we were working on. Can you just provide an update with regard to that program?
Good morning, everyone. Regarding the IPREP program with the University of Toronto, Professor Judith Anderson, who is the lead professor in that program, has just finished compiling all her results It has not been released yet. It's probably going to be within the next 2 or 3 months you'll have that report for us. What it was basically looking at is the actual officer's response in dealing with different incidents, looking at biasm, fair and partial policing, even the officer's general health and well-being in responding to different critical incidents. Some of the incidents I can report to right now is we've done a remarkably good job in our previous training, but how we can expand it more, and that's how it led into the 3-day incident response training program. It was looking at the officer's response, how they deal with the incident, how they can improve their response in dealing with an incident, and trying to approach it thinking of a de-escalation approach right before they even arrive at the call itself or the incident. And that's what we're striving for. So that's basically all I can comment on that part right now, because the results haven't been received back from the University of Toronto. Sorry, but that's the best answer I can give you at this point. But we have tweaked our training as a result of some of that research already before it's even been released by the University of Toronto. As I said, as now we're doing a 3-day incident response training program. And I believe you're asking some questions about that also, which I'm thinking the superintendent can respond to.
Yes, so I'll speak to that, Chief. So yes, the officers are enjoying it. They're finding it very fruitful with the type of information they're getting, which is covering a lot of topics. On page 10 of the report speaks to the syllabus of that program, which is obviously a very robust compared to what we had for the 1-day program initially, and speaks to a lot of the crisis negotiation and the de-escalation and the fair and impartial policing, which we give the officers the booster on. So as mentioned throughout the report, we do an annual review based on the statistics that come from our use of force incidents. So at the end of this year will be the first year in 2018 that we've run a full program of the 3-day training, and we're interested to see the results, to see how we can redesign or tweak the training to make sure that we're giving the officers the best training they need to do the jobs on the road and keep the community safe.
I just want to add, I think this is a wonderful direction, because not only does it save lives of people who are affected on the other side, but also the police officers too. I think when you de-escalate, you are taking yourself out of risk too. I mean, sometimes you have to use the force, but of course, I'm saying motherhood, but the less you have to use it with de-escalation. So I'm very supportive and very appreciative of what you're doing.
Thank you. Amric, will you move number 11 then? A seconder? Jack, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much. You've also asked for item number 12 to be pulled.
Yes, thank you. It's an excellent report on diversity and equal opportunity plan. There's a lot of progress made in recruiting, and I see that in graduating classes, a lot of visible minorities. I still see the changes in female recruitment still very puny. I know I've talked to several of you over the last several years. It seems to be hit a plateau, you know, it just seems to be recruiting about 15, 16, 17%. So that is my first kind of question, is there any ray of hope you see that will see the female recruiting is going to go up?
I have Inspector Sandra Trepty. She actually started moving toward the podium when she started talking. So, Sandra, that's a good question, isn't it? I know it's a question that I ask almost weekly. Can you answer that?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, very good question, and it's something that we are continuously assessing. Yes, females is a challenge, and but it's a variety of outside factors that have caused us to continue to strive in hiring more females. Last year, we tweaked the application process on our website, allowing more people to apply and making it more accessible to everybody in the community, which helped us in acquiring, as you can see by the stats, going from around 100 female applying every year to 300. Having said that, it brought more females, but as well it brought more females without the required qualifications or standards to become part of the process for constable, which means without the ATS, the applicant testing services, which is through OACP, is a testing that you have to have before you can be considered as an applicant for a constable position. But what it did, it gave us 100 of these females had the ATS and they went through the process as regular. But we had 200 females, additional females apply, which we could actually reach out and liaise with them, if we could say, in a manner that we can see where they're at in the process. Since we have their attention, they have the interest on becoming officers. So it has given us that additional pool of females that we are working with and preparing them to reach, hopefully, successful conclusion in the end. I can say that even though 2017 looks somewhat low in number compared with other numbers, that is also associated with the fact that in 2016, ATS made their fitness testing somewhat harder, and we lost from 20% of females passing the test down to 10%. So that affected our pool as well of qualified females. I have some good news that we've had already one first class hired this year, and we've seen already an increase compared to last year's numbers. So we should have our numbers significantly higher by the end of this year compared to 2017.
I can tell you just from the OACP position, this fact of myself and Chief Saunders and Commissioner Hawks have been speaking very strongly at the OACP meetings with the ministry, because the ministry are the ones that set the guidelines with OACP, saying that if we're identifying any systemic barriers to women as a result of the new physical testing, we need to immediately change that. So we are having conversations with that right now, and unfortunately with the change in government, we're hoping that that conversation doesn't become completely stalled. But those are concerns that we are trying to look at as well.
Sorry, I just want to add, Chief, if it's okay, I want to give Inspector Trepty a lot of credit for the tweaking of the application process that we went through last year. Once again, we've tripled the amount of female applicants we have to the process. The amount that are qualified initially and coming in with the ATS has not changed, but it's an opportunity with 200 more female applicants who have an interest in policing for us to get back to them and say, here's what's required, here's what you need to do. We want that opportunity for people to have an interest, and we're hopeful as we move forward that a lot of those people will meet the qualifications and come back to the process.
Yeah, I would say this is true for both racialized people, target groups, and females, that people who don't get it in first time, they are your prime candidates, and somehow if you can figure out a way to get them to complement whatever they lack, so that next time around they become even better candidates and they're successful. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing this number spike. I know Chief and I have had several conversations on this over the years, but female is one area. I think racialized, you're on the track. I think you're into 45–50% range. Still is lower than the general population, but certainly is step change from where it was 5 years ago. But females, it doesn't seem to have moved. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm very pleased to see that you are working with people who didn't make it last time and how to make them better candidates. And we'll look forward to keep an eye on this. Thank you.
Louise, you had a comment?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Have we ever looked at the possibility of creating a support group for that 200? Because 2/3 not having the requirements. Like, is there, but they've expressed the interest. Is there something more formal that could be done, or is there something formal being done?
So I'm going to let the inspector answer the question, but the answer is yes. So initially, we've gotten back to all the applicants to say, here's what you require, and I know we have a lot of testing processes in place, some outreach, especially along the fitness line, which we know is an issue. Did you want to take that a little further, Inspector?
Sure, thank you. Yes, we do have in place programs with, specifically, mainly with our fitness center. We have a fitness unit in Peel, and we have on the website constantly events for people to sign up and come and do a practice of the ATS with us, or come and as well get information as to go through the testing and see where they are at, and they can get information as to fitness practices, what they need to move on with, and the dietary and lifestyle in general.
I think that sounds great. I think I'm thinking even something more structured that might get you a higher rate of applications, of qualified applicants. Just something to consider.
Yes, sorry, if I may just expand. We do have female-only practice sessions because we notice sometimes that brings more females out because they feel more comfortable in that setting. So that's something else that we're targeting, just females, so they can feel more comfortable in that environment when they're trying their fitness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amric, you brought number 12. Would you like to move the report now?
Yes.
Thank you. Seconder, Louise, all those in favor? Thank you very much. We'll move down to number 14, which Linda pulled out for the new business.
This is the police records check update, and I just wanted to alert the board to the fact that now the seniors associations have just clued into the fact that the vulnerable, police records check cost is going to be incurred by the seniors associations. So they have just written a letter to the city of Brampton, and we've tried to alert them to the change in the policy. So I've indicated to the chair of the region that I would like this addressed at the region, just so that you know that we're trying to educate as we go, but the seniors have just discovered what we've done. So heads up in case it comes your way, but I think I believe there's a willingness at the region to have this conversation, and I know the clerk is bringing a report, but I don't think we'll get it till the next term of council. So maybe there may be some interim steps that we can take as a region, but I just got a letter a week ago from the head of the new seniors chair about this issue, so I'm trying to calm the waters, but in case it comes your way, I just thought I'd give you a heads up.
Deputy Andrews, would you like to comment on this?
Chair, yes, we've been trying to educate as we go, Madam Mayor, but the fairness and transparency of the process is key, and we'll be willing to work with whatever the region direction the region chooses to go in. But we think that overall, with the cost of the checks going from $45 to $33 across the board, fairness and consistency is the way we want to, the direction we want to go in, and transparency as well.
I don't disagree with you, but if you know any seniors, and we all do.
I'm pretty close to being one myself.
Yeah,
present company
they're a
excluded,
frugal
of
lot
course.
who don't like to pay and want to know if there's a seniors rate on everything. So at the end of the day, I think at the region, we've worked on the paid duty piece, and I think we're in a better place. But I think this has just, in the last week, has become a bit of a furor in certainly in the community group that I have heard from. So I just wanted to let you know it's coming. We'll try and address it. I'm going to try and bring it to the region. Spoke to the clerk already about this issue to bring it to that table. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes,
and
Norma. Oh, sorry.
Eventually, can I go back to the minutes?
Yes, I've
Thank you.
been notified. Norma, you have a comment?
I like that the measured outcomes won't be known for a while. One of the concerns I had when this issue was brought forward is around our seniors. And our seniors like to get out and be active, and I don't know how we can ever monitor how many of them are not asking for the check so that they can go out and do their volunteer work. But one of the issues is we need to engage our seniors, their leaders in the community, and to enhance their lives. So I would like to see, if possible, any impact that this is having on our seniors. I support the direction we're going, It's just that for seniors, I did have a concern to say if they now have to pay, then they may be sitting at home and we may be getting more calls, take them to the hospital, or getting more mental health calls, whatever the outcome is. So I greatly appreciate if we could monitor, and thank you, Mayor, for bringing that forward. That is a concern of mine too.
Mayor Jeffrey, did you have another comment, or you're okay? Just on the minutes. Okay, would you like to move item 14? Oh,
Sorry,
the chief?
Sorry, Chair.
I can't see that side, so
sorry.
you gotta.
I just wanted to just say that I don't think we don't have the ability right now to determine how many seniors are not coming forward. I mean, I was getting the indication from Inspector Leslie, who's in charge of record services. There's no way for us to determine that. So I didn't want to say, I didn't want the board to leave today thinking that we'll come back later on and say we've seen a drop in that. We're unable to track that.
Linda, would you like to move item 14? Seconder Norma? All those in favor? And that's been moved. We're going to go down to item 20, and that's the Peel Regional Police response to Metrolinx regarding the disposition of land at 7750 here on Ontario Street, Brampton. Chief, would you like to speak to this item? Or is there someone in the audience that would like to speak to it? Who would like to speak to this?
Deputy Jarvis would like to
There
speak
you
to this
go.
one.
I knew there'd be somebody there. Okay.
He's just discovered he wants to speak to this.
I have no problem speaking to this, Chief.
Okay.
There's going to be lots of changes with the Metrolinx line going up here Ontario Street, and this is one of the first one that's going to impact on us. As you can see by the diagrams at the back, it's not a lot of land that they're looking to expropriate, but it is some land. The bus shelter will be moved back a few meters, and it will impact some of our technical lines. The Region of Peel Realty will be looking after this, as will Region of Peel Legal for us. It's board approval, yes, but it really becomes a formality when the provincial government is expropriating the land.
Oh, that's true. This is true. Any comments from anyone? Okay. Well, that was quick. Okay. Frank will move it. Could I get a seconder? Louise, all in favor? There you go, and that's moved. Thank you. And I understand that, Linda, you have some comments about the minutes that you'd like to bring to our attention.
I just wanted to, the last time we talked about court security prisoner transportation program and the 2017 annual financial, we had a fairly lengthy conversation about that, but at the end of it, I talked about the large urban mayors and the concerns about what might be downloaded and what we are afraid will become our responsibility. So I wanted to do something rather than sit here and worry about it. So because we have 5 new MPPs, I would suggest that we collectively as a board reach out to the new MPPs and demonstrate our interest in this issue and our interest in having them be more knowledgeable and our concern that this is a growing cost center for us. So I think we need to put something in writing. So that's my ask. At the bottom of the minutes, I indicated that we were concerned about the provincial funding. I just want us to do something practical. So I'm suggesting that an action come out of that, that there be a letter either from the chief or from the board indicating that this is a growing cost center for us, and with the additional courts coming online in the future, that we do something.
So you'd like to amend the minutes to ask for direction for a letter to go out from the board to the new members of provincial parliament and the new premier?
Based on the advice of the chief.
And Chair, we can provide that. I think we've already prepared, and I think we sent that off as a result of the last question. We can show, we can demonstrate that the increasing number of the gap, and the fact of what the government is paying us and what actually really what it's cost the citizens of Peel.
Okay, so we're going to put it in these minutes. I just got corrected. I can't amend the last minutes, but I can certainly put it in these minutes that you're asking for that.
And I appreciate we usually send it right to the people making the decisions, but at the end of the day, we have 5 new MPPs who do not know anything, my guess, about this specific issue. I'd be surprised. It's a possible. One's a lawyer that I know of, but I doubt that he knows. So this is about making sure that our representatives understand the pressure that is exerted on this community because of those courts, and on our budgets. So I just wanted to make sure, not only do we send it to the provincial, I guess to the minister, but to the MPPs, that they're copied on it. So, thank you.
That will be reflected in the minutes.
Thank you.
Linda. Thank you. That concludes the public portion of our meeting today. We'll adjourn for 5 minutes and we'll go in camera. Thank you.